On today's show, we are 24 hours away from the NBA trade deadline. Some trades are already trickle in. We're going to break down what it means that Darius Garland and James Harden swap places. The Bulls and Pistons made a trade. The Celtics and Bulls potentially making trade. And, of course, the Jazz and Grizzlies. We're going to break all those down, plus talk about a very impressive Suns comeback from last night. All that and more on today's All-NBA show. What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler, who's on the road for yet another matchup between the Thunder and the Spurs. I think this is the 9th time this season we're seeing these two teams play.
It's really incredible. Fifth matchup, obviously one got added because of the Emirates Cup. Fifth matchup, and yet here we are in just the beginning of February. We're not even at the All-Star break. These are two teams that not only have given us a really compelling storyline this year and probably going to see each other potentially down the road at some point in the playoffs. We're thinking like for future years. This could be something that's really going to turn into something big, and yet they're going to be done in the regular season by here the first week of February. So we're going to go these last few months of the regular season. They will not match up again. Obviously, San Antonio's gotten them 3 out of 4. This is a big one. This is in San Antonio. I think this is an important game for Oklahoma City. I think, they got beat on their home court, and they finally got them in that second matchup at home, and now they go on the road to San Antonio. So I think both of these teams really are going to be up for this game. I cannot wait to sit courtside and watch this matchup tonight. Two of the best defenses in the league.
Don't you feel like, so San Antonio gets them in the first 3, OKC getting the last one and kind of comfortably, it's almost like, okay, maybe we figured it out. We're over the hump. So tonight's game is sort of the prove it. If San Antonio gets the win, that's 4-1. You beat them 4 out of 5 times. But if OKC wins, they won the last 2. Which almost feels like even though it'd be 3-2. It's like, yeah, but we won the last 2. That's kind of how I look at this. I actually think it would be meaningful for Oklahoma City to get a win tonight.
I do too. No, I do too, particularly because it's on the road. You're in San Antonio. They've gotten you 3 times. I agree with what you said. Like that fourth one, I don't think it gets you to even. Right. It's still 3-1, right? And particularly when I know how badly Oklahoma City wanted to win the Emirates Cup. Yeah. Think about it. They had 1 loss going into that game. And they had a 16-point lead in that game. And that's when Victor Wembanyama was coming back from the injury, remember? And he was coming off the bench. He didn't even play in the first quarter. His first 12 minutes of that game, he was a plus 18, the San Antonio Spurs. That's how much different it was once Wemby took the court in that game on a minutes restriction. So that one was really, I felt, damaging to Oklahoma City just because how badly they wanted to finish off that incredible start to the year by winning the Emirates Cup. They end up getting that 4th game, and you're kind of like, okay, order restored a little bit. But no, for me, it's like this one. This is the one now, because if Oklahoma City can go in and beat San Antonio on the road, and now you got Wemby without a minutes restriction playing, and everybody's playing in the game, then I think Oklahoma City is going to feel – it's not like they're sitting there worried about the San Antonio Spurs, but there's something to losing to a team 3 times. Sorry, there is. I mean, So in some ways, you're kind of like, okay, if you can crack the code and get a tough road win, most importantly, operate offensively against San Antonio's defense when Wemby's on the court. If they can do that, then I think that they're going to feel like, okay, overall, even though we lost 3-2, if they win tonight, hey,
it's even. I'm calling it even.
Even on the series, even though it's not. It's 3-2. Yeah. So, look, and I don't know what's going to happen. San Antonio's defense is so good. I just cannot wait for the intensity of this game. I can't wait for these two teams with these top defenses. And I think a budding rivalry to be like one of the best ones I think we're going to have in this league over the next, who knows, half dozen years or more. So, yeah, man, obviously I'm fired up. I'm fired up for this game tonight. It's going to be must-see TV.
Well, I'm glad you're on the call for it. Also jealous you're on the call for it, man. What a great game to catch. All right, let's talk real quickly before we get into these trades. Most of the show today is going to be on trades, but why don't we really quickly talk about a fantastic game from last night? And that was the very shorthanded Phoenix Suns coming back on the Portland Trailblazers to steal a win in Portland, 130-125. And they did it behind Steph Curry, a.k.a. Collin Gillespie, 30 points, 8 of 14 from the three-point line, 10 assists. This guy's been incredible all year, and yet this game might have been his masterpiece on the season with how he was shooting the ball and how he led this comeback. What stood out to you about this game?
I think his performance, certainly. And, you think you don't have Devin Booker, Dylan Brooks, who's had an incredible year and is playing maybe the best offense of his entire career right now, currently, over the last couple of weeks. He goes 3 for 16. And so you're thinking, and Portland's a team that, you got to show up and play against Portland. So you're thinking, well, how are they going to win a game if you don't have Devin Booker and Dylan Brooks struggles to shoot the ball? Grayson Allen was big in this game too, but it was really about Collin Gillespie. And this is a guy that has now burst into the stream of consciousness of everybody that watches the NBA. His story is incredible. His ascension is incredible with this team. He's on a team that's winning, that we've all sort of become enamored by. That always helps because it's actually, what you're doing is leading to wins and helping to lead to wins. But now here's this night where it's like, okay, it's kind of like your show, your team. What does it look like if Collin Gillespie has to dial it up as a starting point guard in this league and be that two-way threat as a scorer and facilitator? What does that look like? Well, he showed you. How about 30 points, 10 assists, 1 turnover, and just how certain he looked.
Yeah. With
all of his actions, how intentional he was in hunting his offense, in compromising their defense, leading to great stuff on a night when the guy that you would expect to have to go off for them to win this game without Booker, Dylan Brooks, has a rare bad shooting night this season. Collin Gillespie was absolutely sensational. This is, I guess, his signature crown jewel performance to this point. I mean, he's had a game winner this year, but in terms of playing starters minutes with the ball's yours the whole game, this is his signature performance of his career, probably. So give him all the credit in the world. The Suns continue to just impress no matter who's out there. They have a belief now, and Collin Gillespie was the main storyline coming out of this game.
And Grayson Allen had some big threes as well. He went 6 of 11. He had the step back in the clutch that was just absolutely huge. So he made some shots as well. It's really the two of them that helped the Suns get to 20 made threes on 20 of 41 shooting, 49%. But here's the thing. The Blazers have athletes that like to pressure the ball. And so that is a double-edged sword. If it works, you're up into the ball handlers, you can create turnovers, everything else. But if you have a steady point guard, and when he was in Denver, we called him Steady Gillespie because he was so steady you couldn't rattle him. If you have a player like that, it actually works against you. Now all of a sudden that pressure is, you're overextended. And we're going to break down one play real quick here, Legs, or one action. It's not even a play. It's just an action that I think highlights why Phoenix is tough with Collin Gillespie. One, we're going to set the stage here. You get Klingon, and most of these you got Klingon in a drop. And what you get is Gillespie going under the ball, so you're putting pressure on the paint, and you're making the defense go under these screens. But then it's just a quick pitch back to the big and run around them. Let's play it here, Legs, and tell me what you're seeing.
Yeah, so I think the key to these when you watch is it starts with the ball screen. Yeah. Right? And now you're immediately going to get a reaction out of the big. It's the second action that leads to something for Gillespie. It's the pitch back and then chase it over the top. Yep. It's not as effective if he doesn't set that first ball screen to get the big to react and drop, because it's very difficult for a big guy to react to the stop right here. So you can see how far back Klingon is. I mean, that's just a very difficult chase. And you can see the guard's trying to go over the top. But Gillespie comes off so tight on those dribble handoffs. There's no way that you can get over that tight enough and curl back toward the three-point line to contest that, even though he's closing out on the right side of his body, which is where he's releasing the ball. So let it play out.
Play the next ones here too. There's a bunch of examples. Next one's
even better.
Yeah, and his shot's so pretty.
Go back and stop it from the beginning before he even runs that first ball screen. Keep going back.
Yeah, let's see here.
I want to set it up. Stop right here. So as you can see, this first ball screen is set at, you're approaching 38 feet, 40 feet. So Gillespie's not going to shoot the ball from there. And he knows that. And you can see how far back Klingon is. So that's what a lot of bigs are going to be when a screen is set out that far, particularly a guy that big. He's not going to be out there at 40 feet hedging on this. But Gillespie knows he's not looking for that shot. He wants to take it off and get the basketball down off the dribble closer to the three-point line to now allow that screener to get closer to the three-point line. So on the second action, when he hits him, now he's coming off at 26 feet. The whole thing is designed. And so he's not looking for this one here. This is a deep pull. Very few guys in the league are going to pull it from out there. Run it. Let's play it and then stop it when I tell you. So he comes off and then stop it. And now look where the screener is. So the screener set the first screen at 38 feet, like I said. Now they're right at the three-point line. Yep. So when this pitch comes now to the screener, Gillespie comes off this handoff. Look where he's at. He's right on the line. So that first action is just designed to get that guard chasing him, like to really commit to try to get back, to contest, to get inside the three-point line, knowing that he's going to hit. And that second time he comes off, now he's at a makeable shot distance and play it out. Here it is one more time. This is exactly the same thing. He's going to run the ball screen first, comes off, doesn't want that one. And then on the pitch back, now you're asking the defender to have to do that twice in a row with no help from the big. It's going to lead to something great. And, you're not comparing Collin Gillespie to Steph Curry, but this is a Curry type of action. Curry to come off of a ball screen knowing he's going to hit back and immediately reverse directions and come right back where the screener set the first one to get the little dribble handoff and walk into an open shot. Gillespie was just mastering this action and knowing that when you've got a center that big that's more inclined to paint protection or rim protection, to ask him to defend that type of action twice in a row, like in a matter of a couple of seconds, it's just not really feasible for that guy to do that. And he walked into some clean looks.
And I think it's especially good against a team like Portland. They're using Shaedon Sharpe up on him. Way longer, way more athletic. So we're going to try to pressure and overwhelm him. You get that screen high. He's got to chase, pitch back. Now you got to chase back. Now you got to get around the screen. You're using the athleticism and the aggressiveness against him, basically, because now Shaedon Sharpe's having to run in circles around him, guarding him forward and backwards. And so it just works out perfectly for that. And you have a player in Collin Gillespie who is capable of doing it. Atticus, our producer, said he looked like Steph Curry. And I think he's right. This is Steph Curry-esque, this type of running around screens multiple times, making the defender chase you all over. I mean, it's kind of silly, but it is true. It's Steph Curry-esque.
Well, and it's also the difference when, you know that Gillespie knows he's going to be out there for 33 minutes. He's playing starters minutes. It's kind of like I said, it's like his game on a given night if you don't have Booker. It's just speaks also to the mentality of him controlling possessions for that long. Like this is going to be his action to run, and they're obviously all in on it because of how well he's played. They found themselves a keeper, man, a player. I'm so happy for him because of his journey is incredible, and he's making himself a lot of money every single night that he plays like this down the road. At some point, this guy's going to get paid because he's proven not only to be a rotational player in the NBA, he's an impact player on a good team. Like that's a whole nother level. Like there's lots of levels in this thing for players. Impact player on a good team, that's when you start to really catch everybody's attention, and Collin Gillespie certainly has done that.
It's a bad look for Denver, man. Denver had him coming out of college, and in the summer, after a great summer league, he had a great summer league. After that, he broke his leg playing pickup, missed the entire season, and then ends up, obviously, he comes back, he gets lost in the wash and lands up there. But great player, man. Really interesting one. All right, let's get to some of these trades, and we'll just do our first one, which is the big one, which is that the Cleveland Cavaliers have acquired James Harden in exchange for Darius Garland and a 2026 second-round pick. That's the deal. Almost straight up. I mean, you're getting a second-round pick out of this. Probably won't be the greatest second-round pick since, somewhere halfway through it. But let's start on the Cavs side of it because I think that's the bigger side. James Harden, Donovan Mitchell. Does this make sense? Is it possible that this can work? And if so, why?
Listen, there are certain things you can have strong opinions on in this league and certain things you feel pretty certain how it's going to work out. This one, I'm a little bit let me see it first before I really think how this is going to work. Look, here's how I view it just in terms of big picture stuff. So look, James Harden, he's 10 years older than Darius Garland. I really, really like Darius Garland. He has dealt with some issues, some really strange, toe issues that, he had the one and now he's got a toe on the other foot. It's kind of unusual to have these injuries stack up like this. I love Darius Garland's game. And I thought that his mesh and his fit with Donovan Mitchell was really, really good. And look, they won 64 games last year. and they weren't able to get it done in the postseason, and they had some injuries at the wrong time of the year. It's not an excuse, but it is something that affected them, and they were not able to conclude the season the way that they set the table. 64 wins, really dominated the Eastern Conference as the number 1 seed. So you come into this year, and again, dealing with injuries at the start of the year, and they're not on that pace. And most of the narrative about them has been, what's wrong with the Cavs? What's wrong with the Cavs? Yeah. They're starting to get it together now. Like, as we speak, like, they're starting to play better. Their offensive rating, which was number 1 in the league last year and historically good at one point, is dropped off.
It's 8th. Yeah. It's good, not great.
Yeah. I mean, still good. Top 10. I mean, but you're not what they were doing a year ago, obviously. No. So you're looking at it, and let's go get James Harden now, who is a dominant offensive player. He's still dominant, even at this stage of his career. On any given night, he can be an absolute, impossible task to try to slow down because of his scoring and facilitating combination. I look at this team, Adam, and I go, some of the things he does are tailor-made to some of the things they have around him, okay, which is they've got a lot of shooting. Now, they haven't shot it as high a rate this year as they did last year, but they've got a lot of shooting on this team, and they don't even have Max Strus. Merrill was out for a time. They have found Jalen Tyson. DeAndre Hunter really struggled, so he's out. I think that James Harden is going to make this stable of shooters even better than Darius Garland could. So that is one area that he's a weapon, man. His ability to spray the ball around to shooters and his ability to throw pocket passes and lobs to bigs. Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen are going to be primary beneficiaries of James Harden's passing ability and ability to get downhill and draw two. So there are things he does as a playmaker that are at a really elite level that I think lends itself to the supporting cast in this team. So let's start with there. I'm going to get your kind of thoughts on that and just viewing him as a guy that can really pick you apart with his passing ability. I feel like this team has a lot of weapons that are going to benefit from that, probably even more than what Darius Garland could do as a playmaker.
I think so too. And here's the thing. When you had Garland and Mitchell assembled, and then of course Mobley and Allen, the thought was, okay, all four of them can play together, and that's your your big lineup. But then you have a big and a point guard on both lineups. You could run kind of a stagger or whatever. And I think it worked out okay. But those guys to me are almost like a little bit different stylistically. And now you go to, I think the big thing about this trade is you get 48 minutes now of elite pick and roll and isolation play between Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. James Harden's still elite at this, like elite pick and roll play with a lob threat. So you get the 48 minutes with something, but you get minutes with one or the other being able to do exactly what they want. And I think that's why this makes so much sense to me. And James Harden, Zubac is great, and he's really figured out how to play in the pocket. Then you get Lopez, who can play the pick and pop game and spread out. But I think got players like Harden are still best when you give them an over-the-rim lob threat so they can get downhill. He's got that now, and both Mobley and Allen. And so to me, I look at this and say, I actually think this will work for Cleveland in a way that's very interesting.
No, I agree. The question is, like, the flow between Mitchell and Harden. Like, that part I said I need to see it. Like, that's
that part I'm not sure.
It's a lot different than it was with Darius Garland, who is really a top shelf offensive player, and his quickness and speed up the floor, like, is next level. But he doesn't necessarily require the ball in a given possession as much as James Harden is going to. So that's what's got to be ironed out. It's going to take time. And I don't know to what extent, Mitchell and Harden kind of, personal relationship they have or anything like that, because all that plays into it. If guys have friendships and like they have this thing where they've kind of developed over the years, like that can matter in terms of meshing quicker because they have known each other and they've built up a rapport that you might not know about because they haven't played on the same team. So it can happen faster. You're talking about a situation where, we're well past the midway point. So now they've got to get this together pretty quickly and see how that flow works with these two guards who are ball dominant guards and how they make that a seamless transition. I'm really curious to see it myself. There are things about James Harden that there's no question are going to be elite for the personnel around him on this team. And he had some elite personnel in LA too. And guys putting up monster numbers for a reason. And they're red hot, by the way, for a reason. It's not just how well Kawhi's played. James Harden's been pretty sensational as well.
Yep.
Well, he's got a lot left in the tank. There's no question about it. It's just stylistically, it's very different. There are a few guys that operate like James Harden operates, like historically even. So getting that now to work with Mitchell and all these other pieces, that's what remains to be seen. I guess the big question, Adam, is this. Was this worth the risk for the Cleveland Cavaliers? I think it was.
Yeah. Well, to your point, though, about the synergy here, one of the things that made them so good, the Cavs so good last year, was they'd get into these fourth quarters. If they hadn't blown you out already, they'd get into these fourth quarters, and the ball would start to get popping with the lineups. And you talk about Donovan Mitchell get downhill, swing pass, Strus and Garland swing. They'd find the open guy, and it just felt like in the fourth quarter, if you weren't at 100% energy and effort defensively and on rotations, they would be getting open three after open three. That's one thing Harden is not always great at, is the extra swing pass. He's very good at the one drive, kick. You drive, kick out, shoot. But the ones that are like, okay, I have to connect the chain here. Somebody broke it down and I have to connect the chain. He hasn't always been good at that. And so you are right that, to me, that was their biggest strength, in my opinion, last year, was they get these sequences where the ball just popped for 4 or 5 minutes and they would score every single time. That might be out the window. And I think that's kind of what you're referencing.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's going to be a lot different. And there's possessions I've seen Cleveland play a number of times this year, a lot. Like they're even off-ball movement after the first action in the way that guys continue to run, cut, spread it, move it. When they play that way and that ball hops right at the perimeter after the first action, that's when there's nights you watch them like there's no way you could stop this team when they move it that cleanly. And in one game in particular, I saw them against Philly. It was just like this beautiful masterpiece they put together offensively, where they just kept moving the basketball, finding the open guy after the initial action was defended. That is a little bit different with James Harden on the floor. He's really good at hey, man, this is the initial action. Okay, I'm going to get something out of the initial action. He's one of the best we've ever seen at run one action for this guy and something good's going to come of it. Yeah. With his ability to shoot the step back three, his little float game he's got, his late finds with pocket passes, lobs, and then his ability to kick out. I feel like you can run one action with James Harden more than a lot of guys, and he'll get something out of it. But the tail end of their possessions, when it's really done at a high level, that is what really changes it, and that's what makes it different. Now, I have another question about the Cavs related to this, and then I want to go to the Clippers side of this with Garland. For the Cavs, you got to remember, they also added Dennis Schroeder, Keon Ellis. So now you've got Mitchell, Harden, Schroeder, Ellis, Sam Merrill, who is having a career year, who is there as he's like a two guard. That's a lot of guards, man, that need minutes. And it's going to be interesting to see now how Kenny Atkinson allocates all of that and how he utilizes all of these pieces, because this is now a really guard-heavy team with a lot of talent at that position, and got better defensively at that position with bringing in Schroeder and Ellis. So now it's how does Kenny Atkinson manage all of this? Because their roster took on a completely different look in their backcourt overnight, and what this looks like. And that, to me, is going to be another really interesting part of this. It's not just Harden. It's these other guys they got too, and their impact in probably uncertain minutes at the start. Yeah. What is that going to look like for the Cavs?
Well, I think that guys that can, if you have multiple ball handlers that can beat defenders off the dribble one-on-one, it's a huge advantage. The question is, it's hard to get that and defense from your perimeter guys. And I think this is part of what Boston has been so good at. They had a lot of guys that can just get past the first line of defense, but all of them could guard. We'll see about Cleveland. They have great rim protection behind it, so maybe that helps out. But it'll be interesting. If nothing else, he's more available than Darius Garland. And it's sneaky important that you just have your guys available. He's available. This year, he only missed 3 games prior to these last 2 that he set out as he was awaiting this trade.
He played over 70 the last 2. I mean, there's no doubt about that. He is available, and he's just the way he's built. He's solid. He plays through stuff. So that's definitely part of this. Now you got to, I guess, for them, they've had two years in a row where they underachieved in the postseason, like by anybody's account, even certainly their own. And they know that. Kenny Atkinson said coming into the year, like, man, we got to get it done when it matters most. Like, what regular seasons are awesome, but we've got to get it done when it matters. James Harden has a lot of playoff experience, but he's also had, some series and some performances in the playoffs where, he's going to have to be better maybe than he's been for them to get through it. But he's got a running mate in Donovan Mitchell who can help him navigate that. So this is fascinating. I think overall worth the risk for the Cavs based on the way their seasons ended the last 2 years and based on some of these injuries that Darius Garland has been dealing with. And if the Clippers, look, Harden wanted out. Once that happens and that becomes known, like you're done. You got to make that happen. And they did. And they get a guy that's 10 years younger that they think is a really good player now when he's healthy and is going to be a really good player for the foreseeable future. And they're playing really, really well. They've been the hottest team in the league really for like the last 6 weeks. So for them, I think that if you're going to go and you have to move them, I think they did about as well as they could in getting a return for a young point guard in his mid-20s who's been an all-star, who is very, very talented when he can stay healthy. The key is staying healthy, and let's see how that goes for him in LA. But he's going to a team that's red hot right now, so it's not like he got banished to some team that's not playing for anything. So Darius Garland still has a lot of competitive juice in him this season. I think we're going to see.
The Clippers are 6 games back of the 7 seed, but only 2 back of the Golden State Warriors, so they're very catchable there. I'm skeptical about this move, both now and long term. Obviously, with the injuries, just how healthy can he be for you, and can that team win without him? I think this trade, maybe I'm being cynical here, Legs. I think this trade is almost in some ways a punt on this season and perhaps even on the era that they are in, because the Clippers had this flexibility next year. So you have to get through next year and a lot of money come off the books, including Harden's. And then you go into free agency with cap space and that, you're an LA team. Can we sign a big name? This new CBA seems to not allow for players to get to free agency. Everything is done in the final year of you trade with 1 year left. And I look at this and say Darius Garland expires in 2028, which means the 27-28 season will be his expiring year. And I almost wonder if they're pivoting in part to say, you don't want cap space. You want to be able to trade an expiring, a big expiring. And so this still sets them up for that summer of 2027 when maybe they can do some kind of sign and trade and work a deal for a star. But I just have a hard time talking. The West is too good. The teams are too real. The Clippers have been too inconsistent health-wise for me to buy a team in a 9 seed adding Darius Garland and thinking it's going to make a move. I just don't buy it.
Well, I mean, listen, I would disagree from this standpoint of terms of like punting on this season. I think if that were the case, they would have just tried to probably get as much future cap space as they could, and Darius Garland was still under contract, or just get picks. Yeah. They got back a guy that's been an all-star, and he's 26 years old. He's really talented, and even this year, when he's played him and healthy, I mean, he's still like an electric talent. So I think they got about as much as they possibly could. If you're going to lose your starting point guard, who's putting up almost 25 and 10 every night, if you're going to lose that, and you're playing this well as a team, I think this is about as good as you could have gotten back to continue to try to play well and win. Now, we don't know, when he's going to be able to play and how long is he going to be healthy. If you assume that he comes back and he is healthy, I think the Clippers did pretty well by trying to keep this thing on the rails right now with a team that's playing really well.
Well, they have no reason to tank, because, of course, the big winner in all of this might be the Oklahoma City Thunder, who own the Clippers' pick this summer. So Clippers got to stay afloat, got to make a push here for that 7 or 8 seed. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, we got to run through a couple other trades, including a very confusing but interesting trade between the Jazz and Grizzlies, and then the Bulls making a couple moves. We'll talk about that on the other side. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to place your bets before the NFL season closes its tab. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're in on it. If you're a new customer, bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So whether you're backing the favorite, riding the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over and football is officially done. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com/AllCity to get started. Must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Also want to tell you guys about Shady Rays. You know that moment, the one where you realize you left your favorite pair of sunglasses at the beach or on the roof of your car or at a gas station 3 states away? Well, I've been there too, but I found Shady Rays. They completely changed the game. I got a pair of Shady Rays right here, actually. These sunglasses are made for real life, seriously good-looking, polarized, durable, and not stupidly expensive. And here's the wild part. If you lose or break them, even on your very first day, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trip, just replacements. Sunglasses are one of the easiest things to break or lose, so this is the craziest deal I think you can find. So now I can actually wear my sunglasses without fear on hikes, concerts, boat, wherever. Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use code AC35 for 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Back here, segment 2 of the All-NBA show. Make sure you throw us a like if you're enjoying the show. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. We will be back on Friday with Jason Tim and Saturday with Mark Stein as we recap all of the moves from the trade deadline that happens on Thursday. But let's get to this one, Legs. The Grizzlies continue to tear it down. They are sending Jaren Jackson Jr., John Conchar, Jock Landale, and Vince Williams to the Utah Jazz. The headliner, of course, Jaren Jackson Jr. The Grizzlies get Walter Clayton Jr., who I'm intrigued by. I liked at the draft. Kyle Anderson, George Niang, Taylor Hendricks, and 3 first-round picks. 3 first-round picks. So this is the Grizzlies continuing what started last year when they lost Desmond Bane, tearing it down. 2 of their big 3 is gone now, Jaren Jackson and Bane. But they've got a bunch of picks and they got a bunch of young players. What do you make of this, and what side is most intriguing to you?
Well, I mean, obviously this just became a point where they were going to jettison the parts out, and, you know, you kind of knew that this is where it was headed. Bane goes first, Jackson next, and now, you know, you got your Ja Morant situation.
Yep.
So this is an interesting one for me with Utah because of, you know, some of the size they already have there. I love Jaren Jackson Jr. as a player. He's a big with a lot of versatility in his game. You know, his defensive prowess is well documented as the former defensive player of the year. He is a guy that can step out, stretch the floor with his 3-point shooting, but he can also play big in the post with some touch shots down there as well. But he just has so much versatility defensively. He could do some things that their current bigs can't in terms of just versatility all over the floor. But it's a lot of size out there. I'm really curious to see like what these lineups look like. I agree with you about Walter Clayton Jr., by the way. I really like him as a player. I think, you know, he's got a very bright future in this league. But this is all about Jaren Jackson Jr. And I think it indicates where Utah's mentality is now. Like, you know, where they were doing the last couple of years, they're in a different mindset now. They want to go ahead and try to be competitive and try to win and try to like climb a couple rungs in the ladder in the Western Conference. Jaren Jackson Jr., with like his resume, his age, all of those things, guy plays really hard. That they checked a lot of boxes by getting him for what they gave up, I think.
Well, here's what's interesting about on the Utah side, in my opinion. If you remember the beginning of the year, I talked about the Utah Jazz being one of the sneaky fun teams, and it only lasted about 2 weeks, and they started to get some injuries and stuff. But what made them interesting is they played a monster ball lineup, this enormous lineup that saw Lauri Markkanen playing the 3, Kyle Filipowski at the 4, Walker Kessler at the 5, Ace Bailey at the 2. It was just enormous, where you have all these guys that are really long. Even Keontae George is long and rangy. So they had this like supersized lineup, and it worked. It almost ruined their tank to where they were doing weird rotations behind it. Well, if you look at next year, you're going to get Kessler back, so he'll be there. Jaren Jackson Jr. now seems to be that seems to be how you play him, at 4 next to a rim protector. And then you go to Lauri Markkanen at the 3, Ace Bailey at the 4, Keontae George. That's kind of a better version of what they were doing to start the year. It's just better players in those spots. Kyle Filipowski, you upgrade to Jaren Jackson Jr. So I don't know if this is a long-term championship successful piece or whatever, but I do look at it and say I think one of the ways the league is evolving is to having as much length, like versatile skill length, as you can have, and that'll be the longest lineup in the NBA next year.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy, like that kind of size. You're talking about playing a guy in marketing who's over 7 feet tall, and small forward, and he's playing your 3 spot. So the questions are, look, Jaren Jackson Jr. We just talked about it, how good he is defensively, but at the same time, that is, over 21 feet on your front line. That's got to move all over the court and defend the 3-point line the way the league is set up, defend transition, changing ends of the floor, all of that stuff. Are they going to be in a tough spot there? I think Will Hardy's a guy that's, saying, hey, this is a good problem to have, man.
Yeah.
And I'm intrigued by it, particularly when, like, last year, you knew kind of the mindset the organization was in. They had a weird mix of some young guys they wanted to develop, and then they had these vets that were on the roster as well, who were going to play every night because they weren't in that mode. Now they're trying to take it there, and this is going to be super fascinating, man, to watch when they run a lineup out there with Walker Kessler, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Lauri Markkanen. At the 3, and hey, maybe you throw Filipowski out there too. Let Markkanen play the 2, or if you let him work on his handles like Wemby. Now let him bring the ball up the floor, man, and you just go at 5, 7 footers. No, I'm kidding, obviously, but they're really fascinating. Keontae George, man, what he has done and like how explosive he has become this year. It's a whole nother talent they have at the guard spot. So look, Utah is, you got to check it out. That's how I'm looking at them now. Like, I need to see the Utah Jazz when they get all this together on the court.
The one thing I'll say, like, as much as I'm intrigued by the supersized lineup and think they can pivot to being good next year, well, 2 thoughts. One, you're going to have to pull a Trae Young. Remember, Trae Young gets traded to Washington, and all of a sudden there's 5 different injuries he's got, and he's got to sit out for the rest of the year. They're going to have to do this with Jaren Jackson Jr., or they might lose their pick, the top 8 protected pick. He makes you bet good enough that you could fall out of that tanking spot, which I hate, but unfortunately I think they're going to have to do it. But the thing I look at is they traded away 3 or 4 years ago, I don't remember what it's been, Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. And it was we're going to tear down, we're going to rebuild, we're going to do it slow and patient, do it right. Several years have gone by, and this lineup is what you get. Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr., Ace Bailey, Keontae George. It's good legs. It's like, okay, it's intriguing, but it does feel underwhelming that you threw away 4 years to arrive here. Do you agree? Like, we're not talking about the Utah Jazz next year's, here it is. They're turning the corner. They're going to start contending. It's like, that's interesting. Could be good.
Well, listen, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you're going to go into that mode,
4 years of bad play.
You want to know what's the tail end look like of that. Although, look, like I said, you just got a guy that is one of the more versatile bigs in this league, and he's still very young with a lot of highly productive basketball ahead of him. So you did get back like a corner piece, but part of this is going to be the continued emergence of Keontae George, and what does he become?
Yeah.
He's already up to 24 points a game this year.
Ace Bailey too.
Ace Bailey as well is another guy. If those guys hit and in the next year or two, and now you've added Jaren Jackson Jr. as one of the cornerstone pieces, I'm gonna say, hey man, I'm really high on what the upside of this can look like. It might not happen this year, but I think it's clearly it's trending in the right direction, and they're finally at a place where now they're going out every night and they're trying to compete and win games, and they're putting pieces around that can do that.
Well, Memphis, on the other hand, now has 12 first-round picks. They trail only the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Brooklyn Nets in terms of draft capital going forward, first-round draft capital. I think that the odds of Clayton and even Hendricks, if he can get his shot working, of those guys hitting goes up because Memphis has developed. I mean, that's one thing you'll say is they found Cedric Coward and JJJ Jackson and, Scottie Pippen, Jalen Wells. They found guys. And to me, Walter Clayton feels like one of those guys. He feels like Jalen Wells-esque. And so their odds go up, but then you just tell me that they have all those first-round draft picks. And then one thing to take note of, they do have now a $29 million. It's a record, the biggest trade exception, I believe, in NBA history. $29 million trade exception through next year. So they are a team now that can absorb a contract either to make them better or, more likely, I would assume, can take on some assets when a team has to salary dump a big contract sometime this summer or next year. They're positioned to do that and get even more draft capital. So it's Memphis slowly turning the corner, rebuilding. We'll see how it plays out, but they seem to have a war chest of assets. Let's quick hit some couple other ones here, Legs. The Bulls traded Jaden Ivey. We knew they would do it. He was entering restricted free agency. He'd been hurt. They had taken off in his absence. They could afford to lose him, and they needed shooting. Well, they got Kevin Huerter. They also got a 2026 first-round protected swap from Minnesota. So the Pistons might actually have, instead of the 30 or the 29th pick this year, they might get like the 24th pick, slightly better, 23rd pick, somewhere in there. But more importantly, they get a shooter for a player that was probably expendable. Is Huerter enough to give them the shooting they need?
Well, I think, look, as good as they've been, and they've been elite defensively, that's still the one thing you look at and say, they're 27th in the league in three-pointers made per game. So, look, they do it a different way. They've got depth. They've got tough guys. They compete. They've got a star leader, offensive player who can control the game, who you can't speed up in Cunningham. So they got a lot in place. The one thing that they can still be susceptible with on a given night is their three-point shooting. They went out and they added Duncan Robinson, who's he's definitely a threat. But when you have a couple of them on the floor at the same time, that's when the spacing changes. Yeah. And that's what they were looking to do. And look, Huerter hasn't even shot it that well this year, but he has proven he's got a track record and a resume throughout his career. He's a guy that can absolutely stretch the floor. He can get hot in a short period of time. When you put him out there, one side of the floor, you got shooting on the other side of the floor. Now the spacing changes. When it's just one guy that you're worried about mainly running around in Duncan Robinson and other guys you live with the three-point shot, there can be nights when Detroit, if you can just get him in the game in the fourth quarter and you're in the game, like that can be difficult because some nights you need to make a certain number of threes in this league to win if a team gets hot against you. So that was still the one thing. They went out and tried to check the box, and you're right. They gave up a guy in Jaden Ivey who's massively talented, but has had injuries, and they have played really well without him, with other guys getting those minutes and getting a chance to showcase an audition for JB Bickerstaff. So it was tough. Ivey was in a tough spot. Guy can play. This might be a new lease on life for him, and the Pistons get another shooter that can allow JB Bickerstaff to give his team a different look offensively, and give them more versatility offensively in how they play. So I like this move for Detroit.
I think it's a good one as well. And it's cheap. You're going to lose Jaden Ivey. It didn't cost you a lot. And the fact that you get to move up in the draft this year is kind of a nice little bonus. I mean, they could use, the 24th pick. We're finding value at that pick. So if there's something too, you were able to collect an asset on top of this, which I think is nice. The last one here, Celtics. This one is just rumored, by the way. And this comes from Adam Himmelsbach. It sounds like it's going to go through. They're just waiting. Both teams are waiting to see if it expands into something bigger. And that is the Celtics getting Nikola Vucevic in exchange for Anfernee Simons. What do you make of this deal just on paper before we get the idea that the Celtics open up a traded player exception that could, again, be useful in future moves? But what do you just think of Vucevic here instead of Simons?
I mean, I've made a lot about, Vucevic. I know that there's limitations there, right, with his defense primarily and rim protection. The guy is an incredibly productive player throughout his career. He's probably gonna end up over 20,000 points, in that 12, 13,000 rebound, somewhere in there. Like very rare territory historically in the league. The guy produces, he can play. He gives Boston a weapon like that they don't currently have at that spot. They've had some guys in there that were really good offensive players. Porzingis, who was hurt a lot in his time in Boston, but could do those kind of things. Al Horford was a guy that could stretch the floor with his shooting. They like to have him. But Vucevic can also do it in the post at a really high level. And he's a very good defensive rebounder, which helps you clean up possession. So I think this is just giving Boston like a boost. Like it just gives them more firepower. I mean, they've got great chemistry right now with their team and the rotation that he's been using, but they clearly felt like this is not enough in the front court with what they're playing right now going forward with Keita and Garza and like those guys being the main guys that are getting these minutes. This is an upgrade significantly in offensive talent. Although, it's funny because Garza tried to, make a case for himself last night. I think he knocked down 5 threes last night. It was kind of basically saying, hey, man, what do we need Vucevic for? Look at me. It was kind of funny because even he was smiling because that's not his game.
Buddy.
But Vucevic is a big time upgrade offensively from what they have now. And I think they just looked at their front court and didn't know that they had enough there. And so Vucevic is not a guy, by the way, that's going to be very difficult at all to blend into what you're doing. He's the kind of guy, like his first night he plays for the Celtics, let's say he plays 20 minutes. There's a good chance he'll get you like 15 and 8. He just knows how to play. He knows how to find the open spots. He's a very good shooter, very good offensive player with great feel. I just an upgrade for them in the front court. They needed more depth. They needed more talent, and they got it.
I feel like it's what you just said is true on the offensive end. The defensive end might be a little bit different. That's a team that's just so good at containment, keeping guys in front. Vucevic obviously is going to be tough at that, so it's going to change some of your rotations and your vulnerabilities. But the big thing, too, is also he's an expiring contract. He goes there, final year of his $21.5 million deal. And the Celtics, I do wonder if part of this is just setting the table for. They had a very good year. They'll make a push. Tatum may or may not come back. Sounds more likely not come back. And so, but you go into next year and you have some flexibility, including, as I mentioned, a $27 million trade exception that just gives them the flexibility. So we'll see what happens there. And then on the other side, the Bulls get Simons, Jaden Ivey and Simons. You got a lot of guys. Maybe a Kobe White deal is right around the corner. That's really what we're waiting on is you bring in all these guards, and it's because there's another deal that's about to happen that gets Kobe White out the door, as everybody kind of expected.
Well, what's interesting about Simons is, here you have a guy that, basically post Lillard in Portland, like it was like, okay, this is going to be the next guy. And you felt like he was so talented, like, and he was such a explosive scorer.
Microwave.
Okay, this guy's going to get his own team. Like he's going to be like one of those marquee guys and it's like, it hasn't happened. So now he's, he's like basically a rental in Boston for a very short period of time. And now he's already on to his next team. So it's kind of like, I'm kind of not sure exactly how I'm viewing Anfernee Simons, other than is that what he is at his best? Is he a guy that's going to be kind of a hired gun going forward and play on a bunch of teams in his career and give you big numbers off the bench as a combo guard? And that's just like what he's going to be, not what it looked like he was headed for at one point in Portland. And he's still really young, so maybe that's not the case, but now he's going to a team and it's going to be, kind of a similar role, and maybe that's what Anfernee Simons ends up being. There's nothing wrong with that. Those guys still make a lot of money. They're very, very valuable players in this league, but it just feels differently, right? How we view Anfernee Simons as we sit here today than we did even like 2 years ago.
All right. Lastly, we got to get you out of here. So let's look at the FanDuels of the night. These are presented by FanDuel, of course. Remember, use that code ALLNBA. These are the games tonight. You got Nuggets at Knicks. Nuggets, man, I don't know if you've watched. Jokic had that great first game back against the Clippers. He has been so whiny the last two games against Oklahoma City and Detroit, two physical teams, and he has just been flailing and flopping around the court, driving me nuts. But now you got a second night of a back-to-back. I don't know if he's going to play. We'll see, but they desperately need a win. They've lost 2 in a row. Wolves-Raptors, that's a good game. I like that one. Celtics-Rockets, that's a good game. I like that one too. Pels-Bucks. Thunder Spurs, Legler on the call for that one. Tune in. Grizzlies, Kings, Cavs, Clippers. Here's, rather than ask you which one you're going to be watching, because I know you're calling that Thunder Spurs game, is the last game before the trade deadline a tough one? Is there, especially even like Thunder have been rumored to have moves, up their sleeve. Maybe they make a big one. Lou Dort even has been rumored. Is it tough to play a game knowing that it's like this could be the last?
Definitely. Particularly, obviously, if your name's been swirling around. What'll be interesting tonight is some of those games. Obviously, if there's something going on that's going to happen,
hold guys out
tomorrow. Yeah, you have to. I mean, so it'll be interesting to see like when you get like kind of find out like like who's playing, who's not, and if there's guys that that you didn't know had any type of injury. Does that mean that there's something, a deal is trying to get consummated between now and tomorrow? That's the kind of thing that can happen on a night like this, because that's certainly the last thing you want is to have an imminent trade and have a guy get hurt. When you're trying to make that move. So, it's tough. It is tough. It's tough for the player. It's also tough for the teammates, because there's just this anxiety and uneasy uncertainty that everybody's feeling, right? It's just like, what does the post-trade environment look like? Yeah. And sometimes it's maybe it's a role player, but if it's a star player, particularly a starter, like there's just this uneasiness that abounds, and it's just a difficult game to play because you don't know what the post-trade environment will be and what it's going to look like and how's the chemistry going to be and how's the fit. Everybody kind of thinks about that, not just the guys whose names are involved in the rumor. It's everybody in that locker room. So yes, to answer your question, the short answer is yes. These are difficult games to play.
I imagine to a much lesser extent, if there is a big trade, let's say Giannis gets traded tonight, it's even a distraction if you're not involved in that trade, just as a big, like, oh my God, it's a big talking point. So tonight should be an interesting one. Tomorrow, even more so as the trade deadline happens. I will tell you, if you're a fan of the Sixers, the Mavericks, the Suns, the Nuggets, or the Bulls, all of those All-City networks will be going live for the entire trade deadline. You'll want to check it out. And then I'm back with Jason Timpf on Friday, breaking down all of the moves that happens. Legs is on ESPN tonight. Thunder Spurs should be a great one. Tune in for that. And if you enjoyed the show, do us a favor. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that like button for us on the way out.